on Prime Crime.
She took a .357 Magnum and shot her mom 3 times and killed her.
Hello? I need medical here.
Her stepfather then arrives home, and Carly proceeds to try to kill him as well.
Hey, where's your wife at, buddy? Where's your wife at?
She's dead on the floor in that room.
A smart, bubbly teen does the unthinkable.
I use the word diabolical, and I stand by that word.
But is there more to the story?
She just had a look on her face that was totally unfamiliar to him. It was not the Carly that he knew.
I don't know what happened. My wife is dead. What's someone tried to shoot me?
Hey there, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime, where we break down some of the most compelling and memorable true crime cases from across the country. When a popular and gifted teenage girl shoots her own parents, killing her mom and wounding her stepdad, it seems like an act of pure evil. But was something else at play? Maybe something beyond her control?
911, what's the location of your emergency?
I went to 14 Wilson Lane. I don't know what happened. My wife is dead. What's someone tried to shoot me?
Your daughter tried to shoot you?
Yeah. She was shooting at me.
March 19th, 2024, in the quiet suburban community of Brandon, Mississippi. Heath Smylie calls 911, so distraught that he's barely understandable.
It was very disturbing. You hear Heath calling and he's crying hysterically, just screeching almost into the phone that his stepdaughter tried to shoot him, tried to kill him.
What's her name?
Carly Gregg.
Carly Gregg? Does she still have a gun on her?
I took it from her. She ran.
You took it from her and she ran?
Yes, sir. She was screaming something at me I couldn't understand. I locked the door. She's outside. I don't know what's going on.
How old is she?
14.
It almost sounds like while he's on the phone with 911, he discovers Ashley's body because you can hear him screaming, "Oh my God, she shot her mom, she shot her mom."
Oh my God, she killed her mom.
She what?
She killed her mom.
She killed her mom? Where's the mom
She killed her
at?
mom, and when I do this, she tried to kill me.
Where's the mom at? Sir. Sir. Sir.
God, why?
Okay, sir. Where's your wife?
She's dead on the floor of my stepdaughter's room.
It was chilling to listen to that 911 call.
Officers rush to the family's home on Ashton Way.
Sheriff's office!
They won't open the door. The cops are here.
It shows him coming up to the home and going to the front door, and you can see Heath answering the door, and he's doubled over. He's got the wound on his shoulder and his trap muscle, and just screaming and crying.
Hey, hey, come outside for me, buddy. Hey, come here. Hey, where's your wife at, buddy? Where's your wife at?
She's dead on the floor in that room.
The officer gets him out and gets him, he's laying down on the porch there before the officer goes in and checks the house. Number one, to make sure that nobody is in there. And then he finds, of course, Ashley's body.
Sheriff's office! Hello? So I need medical here.
There were no reported problems with mom, no prior acts of domestic violence, no police involvement. So I think that this really came as quite a surprise to everybody.
Carly Gregg was 14 years old. She was a very good student. She was very bubbly, very friendly. She seemed very engaged.
And she was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, had a lot of friends. She was just a very smart girl.
Ashley Smylie, Carly's mom, was a very loved school teacher. She taught in the same school that Carly attended.
Lots of teachers that I've spoken with that worked with her spoke about how sweet she was and how kind of a person that she was.
Heath Smylie, although Carly's stepdad, he treated her as his own daughter, that they had a very good relationship. So he really was not just a stepdad, but a real father to her.
She ran into the backyard. I tried to follow her. She jumped the fence and ran. She shot me in the neck. It's okay.
Does she still have the gun?
It's on the kitchen counter. I think there's one live round left in it. I opened the cylinder.
What I was going to say is if you need to get anything with him, do it.
Yeah.
And
well, we won't have somebody come to the hospital, I'm sure. The gun that's used is right there on the counter in the kitchen. No.
Meanwhile, another police unit picks up Carly Gregg.
Kilo unit has got the female subject in custody. Investigations requested she be brought here to the scene. 10-4.
A police officer that was on his way to the scene saw a girl crawling out of a storm drainage ditch.
She doesn't recall getting there. She doesn't recall leaving the house. She just went from taking the dogs outside in the backyard to being on her hands and knees in the ditch.
So he pulls over and he asks her, Carly, are you involved with the shooting that's happened? And he says, yes, sir. And so she puts him in the vehicle. They go down closer.
Step out real quick for me. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all around to the front of you, okay? I'm going to move the handcuffs around to the front of you. Okay. All right. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to swab your hands, okay? Yeah. Right. Now, I'll ask you a bunch of questions, but obviously you fired with a pistol, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
She was very small and she's very young, and she looked so young. Like, even though she was 14 when the crime happened, she looked more like a 12-year-old.
I need you to hold your hand out like this. I'm going to do your right hand first, okay?
Which hand did you shoot with?
Okay.
Which hand did you shoot with?
Carly, in the body camera footage, seemed very calm in that moment and very concerned with what was going on or how Heath was.
They're taking her into custody, and you hear Carly very clearly ask, how is my stepdad?
All right.
Is my stepdad okay?
I don't know, baby. I can't talk to you about it.
It's interesting in that she didn't ask how her mother was. I guess she knew.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Carly was taken into custody within, I believe, 2 hours of the incident occurring, within an hour of actually shooting her stepfather.
So Carly was charged with first-degree murder for the murder of her mother, Ashley Smylie. She was also charged with attempted murder for her stepfather, Heath Smylie, and then charged with tampering with evidence, and that stems from her hiding the security camera that was in their kitchen.
What's most interesting in this case is that a majority of what happened in the case has been documented by the cameras in the house.
That's right. We can actually watch this shocking story play out in real time.
And then Carly returns to the kitchen, trying to conceal the gun behind her back, sits at the kitchen counter.
No one was around, so she sat down and sort of collected herself and her thoughts about her next move.
Based on what Carly Gregg's stepfather has told police, it seems his teenage daughter came home from school, killed her mom, and then tried to kill him. Police used footage from home security cameras to piece together exactly what happened.
On the afternoon of March 19th, after Carly and her mom got home from school, and according to her friends, her two good friends who were the last people to see them at school, Carly was fine. Her mom was fine, not upset. From the video footage from the garage, they did not appear to be fighting. There was no argument taking place in the car when they pull up in the driveway.
From the video, it seems that Ashley Smylie goes to her daughter's room to the right of the kitchen. Carly Gregg checks on where her mom is and then goes outside with the family dogs. Ashley confirms that her daughter is outside.
And then Carly comes back into the house, and if you can see from the security camera footage, Carly is walking very slowly, and she kind of turns in the direction of where we're told her bedroom is, where her mother is. She then walks quietly and quickly towards the opposite end of the house where Ashley and Heath Smylie's bedroom was. She got the gun from her mother's side of the bed. The gun was loaded. They had cubbies along the bottom of their bed, and the gun was on Ashley's side of the bed in one of the cubbies. And then you can see her coming back across the house with the gun behind her back. When she is walking past the entrance to the kitchen area, you can see where she looks into the kitchen almost to make sure that her mother has not left the bedroom and gone into the kitchen, but to make sure where her mom was. So she does not see her mom in the kitchen. She goes into the bedroom. She shoots her mom once, twice. You hear a thud on the ground. Well, you hear a thud, and we're assuming that that is Ashley Smylie falling to the ground dead. And then Carly shoots her one more time, point blank in the face. It was less than 36 inches from her mother's face.
Right after Carly shot her mom, she went into the kitchen and she calmly sat, went to a phone, which you later learned was her mother's phone, and texted her stepdad as if she was her mom, asking, in quotes, when will you be home, honey? So almost acting like her now dead mother, texting her stepfather.
It's almost like she was trying to impersonate her mom and lure him back home. He says he's going to be a little while longer, and she sends back a thumbs up.
I think that forethought and the fact that she was so manipulative in thinking to use the words, honey, when are you going to be home, to set up her stepfather, Heath, to arrive at the home where apparently she planned to kill him as well.
But she appeared very cool and calm right after shooting her mom 3 times. And then Carly texts a friend and invites the friend over.
She had actually FaceTimed, called more than one friend after she had shot her mom. Carly was saying that she had really effed up, that she had messed up, and they were saying, well, don't do anything, don't hurt yourself, don't do anything bad, and she had said to them, I already have. One of her friends asked if they needed to call 911, and Carly responded to them, no, don't do that, you can't do that.
Bizarrely, Carly Gregg even sings for a moment before returning to her bedroom.
It appears that what Carly did in between making those phone calls and talking to her friend was that she posed her mother's body. She got a red towel and covered her mother's face with it. She had her mom's arms, like her hands across the stomach, put her hands across the stomach, almost like someone would be in a casket type of thing. So then the friend that comes over, when she gets to the front door, Carly opens the door and asks her, says something along the lines of, do dead bodies make you squeamish? And she takes the friend inside and shows the friend her mom on the floor that is dead in her bedroom.
Acting as if she wanted to show off what she had just done, killing her mom, and showing her friend her mother's dead body. So it was quite jarring information to learn about this 14-year-old girl.
She told her friend, she said, I put 3 in my mom, I've got 3 more for my stepdad, he's on his way home now. And so she told her friend to go out and hide in the backyard until her stepdad got home and she could finish the job with him.
Less than an hour later, her stepfather, Heath Smylie, comes home.
She was waiting for him, gun in hand, He's coming through the door. She gets shots off. She manages to shoot him in the shoulder until he can overpower her.
And Carly, you can hear her the entire time screaming like a mad person. You can hear on the surveillance camera footage from the laundry room, you can hear where Heath Smylie first gets shot. It was about 6 inches away from his head. If it would have been just a little bit over, he would have been possibly been killed as well. We don't have the surveillance video of her actually shooting him because she had taken the security camera that was in the kitchen. She took it down and hid it in the refrigerator. And then she takes off running out the back door. When the friend who is outside hiding sees her running, the friend follows Carly just because she's terrified at this moment. And you can see in the security video from the garage, Carly hopping over a fence and then also the friend hopping over a fence.
And that's when Heath Smylie calls 911 and police catch up with Carly Gregg. But did her shocking behavior come out of the blue, or did something motivate her to turn on both her parents so violently? When police interview her friends, they reveal that something had happened earlier that day.
Apparently a friend was very concerned about Carly, saying that she had been vaping marijuana on a regular basis.
She had been talking to boys, had a burner phone.
So he reports that his concerns to Ashley Smylie at the school that day before they leave. Miss Smylie was not upset. She was more disappointed in herself and a little worried, but not upset, not angry when Carly and her mom left that day.
It came up that possibly Carly had some issues as far as being afraid of disappointing her mother.
Carly and her mom have a very deep, connected relationship, and Carly really feels responsible for her mom's feelings to the point that she doesn't want to do anything that would cause her mom to be worried or upset.
But it seemed to have been a reaction by Carly to that moment of mom searching her room, speaking to her friend about her vaping, her pot use, her marijuana use, her burner phones. That culmination ended up with mom paying with her life.
It seems Carly Gregg has been having problems for a while.
I think to really understand the events on March 19th, you have to back the clock all the way up to the fall of 2023, when Carly first began to exhibit signs of her mental illness. She was having a difficult time sleeping, she was having racing thoughts, she was having intrusive thoughts. She was very depressed, very anxious, very on edge. She was having a difficult time with her memory. Things that were abnormal for Carly because her stepfather began to pick up on it and notice it, started talking to her mom about it.
This is somebody that was cutting herself. This was somebody that was writing very troubling things in her journal.
Finally, her stepdad and mom talk with Carly in December of 2023. They enter her in therapy, and they also start her on Zoloft in January of 2024 to help treat her anxiety and depression. Carly comes back, I believe on March 13th of 2024, and reports to her nurse practitioner that the Zoloft is making her feel just completely numb, zombified. So they decide then to take her off the Zoloft and switch her to Lexapro. Carly becomes even more on edge, even more manic.
And there's something else that may be contributing to Carly Gregg's mental health issues.
Her biological father, Kevin Gregg, he had a history of mental illness, and Ashley was often afraid that Carly was going to have the same issues that her father had.
He did have significant mental health issues and had been on several medications for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder too. So we don't know what might have led to the acute stressful episode, other than it was sort of the perfect storm for Carly. All of these things were coming to a head all at once, and for whatever reason, the spiral just completely fell apart at that time. There was a lot of hope that the jury would understand, mental illness and the effect of being put on the wrong medication.
Hey, so I want to quickly thank Odoo for sponsoring Prime Crime, making episodes like this possible. And this is for all you business owners out there. Odoo is an incredible all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications. So for example, I could use their website builder application to build a free website for Prime Crime. And honestly, so easy to do. I can use the drag and drop feature, which was huge because I'm not great with online tech skills. Also, their AI copywriter helps come up with descriptions for the site. I mean, look at this. Look how great this looks. So thank you to Odoo for sponsoring Prime Crime and giving us the tools to create new sites. And you too can build your website now. The domain is free for the first year when you use our link odoo.com/primecrimeweb.
People were ready to get their pound of flesh. You know, they were very upset about it. They wanted justice to happen. They wanted her to be, held accountable for this crime.
Teenager Carly Gregg is not granted bail as she awaits trial for killing her mother and attempting to kill her stepfather. Instead, she'll be held in an adult facility because she'll be tried as an adult, and that puts her in a very difficult position.
Because she is a minor placed in an adult facility, she has to be held out of sight and sound of any adults being detained at the detention center, which ultimately leads to her being placed in solitary confinement 24 hours a day unless an attorney came to see her. She wasn't even allowed visitation, and that's a really hard situation for anyone to be in, let alone a minor who's already experiencing mental health issues.
Apparently hoping to spare Gregg any more time in solitary than necessary, the judge expedites the trial. Defense attorney Bridget Todd and prosecutors will have less than 6 months to prepare their cases.
I was quite amazed how short a period of time from the time of the crime to the actual trial, a murder trial like this, where a young girl is looking at spending the rest of her life in jail. I am amazed that it was put forth so quickly.
And it seems the prosecution has a clear advantage.
It's a prosecutor's case, definitely. The defense definitely had a harder road ahead with the case.
The prosecution's strategy was they had a lot of video footage to put forward.
The video is very compelling. It shows a very calm, premeditated, manipulative girl murdering her mother. So that's hard to overcome.
Then, before the trial begins, during the pre-trial hearings, the state offers Gregg a chance to hedge her bets in a case that seems stacked against her.
They initially gave her a 40-year plea deal, which is still a long time, but considering what she was up against, was not. And they offered it to her once during pre-trial, and then right before the trial happened.
Someone who's 14 or 15, 40 years is your whole life without the possibility of parole. And that's a really weighty thing.
All right, Miss Gregg, did you receive that recommendation of 40 years?
Yes, sir.
And it was your choice and your choice alone to reject that recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor.
She was asked 2 questions by a judge. Do you understand this? There is no way 14-year-olds understand the severity, the complexity, the permanency of what she was asked.
If she proceeds to trial, count 1, what's the potential sentence?
Life.
If the jury fails to affix the sentence at life, what's the sentencing range?
20 years to 40 years.
All right, and count 2, what's the potential sentence?
Between 20 years and life.
As a defense attorney, you are only the messenger, and it is not your decision. The defense attorney goes to her client and says, this is the best offer I can get for you. And Carly says, absolutely not. I'm gonna roll the dice. I don't wanna go to jail for 40 years. I'd rather take my chances. And ultimately, it's the defendant's decision, even though she's 14 or 15 years old.
Carly, of her own free will and decision, decided that she trusts the Rankin County jurors more than she trusts a 40-year plea offer by the state.
And apparently she believed that their defense of her was going to be strong enough to get her through.
Carly Gregg's trial gets underway in September 2024, about 6 months after the shootings.
Ladies and gentlemen, you'll hear testimony throughout the next few days during this case. You'll hear about some secret life that Carly lived. You'll hear that she was secretly cutting on her thigh using a knife. You'll hear that she secretly had burner phones her mom and stepdad didn't know about that she was using. You'll hear that she had secret weed vape pens and that she was secretly smoking those vape pens and getting high before going to school at times. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not why we're here though. We're here because of what she did on March the 19th, 2024.
I thought the prosecution had a lot of evidence, but I was more interested in the things that the prosecution didn't have, like a motive or a history of violence or a kid that was troubled.
The defense strategy was that she's a 14-year-old girl and she had to have had some psychotic break because no one said she was crazy before. There's not history of her abusing her mother, or there were prior police calls or police reports or prior violence anyone discussed of anything about Carly.
If the defense could prove that Gregg had had a psychotic break, she could be found not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. Then she might avoid prison and instead be treated in a mental health facility.
This is not a whodunit case. We know who took action on March 19th to bring about the death of Ashley Smylie and the injuries to Heath Smylie. However, this is a why case. Why did it happen? Why did this exceptional child with no history of violence, who was loved by her friends, her teachers, her parents, who had a good home life, who loved her mother, why did she shoot her mom? Why did she shoot at her stepfather? The state would like you to believe the answer to those questions don't matter.
But we know better than that.
The answers to those questions is why we're here today.
But I believe that they felt very strongly about their defense. We knew who did it. It was just a matter of whether or not this was actually an insanity defense.
While the events on March 19th were tragic, the events on March 19th were not intentional. And at the end of this trial, if the state's case still leaves you feeling like their version of events just doesn't make sense, then you must return a verdict of not guilty.
And as you'll see, the complicated issue of mental health will take center stage.
In that week leading up to March 19th, she told me that the voices were getting worse, that they were becoming more urgent, more insistent, more of a problem for her.
She looked beyond remorseful. She was crying, she was shaking. She looked so innocent, she looked so helpless.
As testimony begins in the trial of teenager Carly Gregg, charged with murdering her mother and shooting her stepfather, she can barely keep her emotions under control, especially during her stepdad's 911 phone call.
How would you describe Mr. Smylie's demeanor whenever you first picked up the phone off of that day?
He was very distraught. At first, I thought I was speaking with a female.
She had not ever seen those videos or heard those videos before.
Where's your wife at?
She's still on the floor in that room.
When she first covered her ears, I didn't expect that. But I think for her, she didn't want to hear it. She didn't, it was so traumatic and so painful.
She was crying, and it did seem to be genuine.
In all the time that you've known Carly, would you describe her as callous?
No.
Would you describe her as calculating?
No, except with math.
Would you describe her as diabolical?
No.
How would you describe Carly?
She's just a sweet little girl ever since I've known her.
She had a very good relationship with her stepdad, Heath Smylie. She had written him a very touching Father's Day card about thank you for being the only real dad I've ever had. He took an interest in her.
How did Carly appear to you when you walked in?
Like I said, my initial thoughts were she was terrified, scared out of her mind. I still, to this day, don't think she ever even recognized me. Something was wrong there. I don't know what, but something was off.
In that garage video, just that feral screaming from the minute she walks in the door and you hear Heath from the garage, saying, "Carly, it's me. What's the matter?" And there's just nothing but feral screaming from Carly.
It was very evident to me immediately that something was very, very off with Carly.
He was so convinced by Carly's genuine state of terror that even after he's been shot in the shoulder and Carly has left the house, he is walking around the house with the handgun, going room to room, looking for an intruder because he genuinely believed that there was an intruder in the house based on the state of terror Carly was in when he arrived home.
And then turned and went into Carly's room, and that's where I found Ashley.
When you found Ashley, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen what you saw?
She was laying on her back and had her hands kind of across her, and a towel over her face.
And Heath, when you moved the towel, what did you see?
I knew she had been shot. There was blood around, but I don't really recall exactly where, somewhere in the right side of her face.
There was a lot of emotion surrounding her stepfather, but there was not a lot of emotion surrounding her mother. And so that led to a lot of people having less sympathy for Carly.
The defense calls their first and only mental health expert to the stand.
Based on your evaluation, was there a period of time in which Carly's mental health issues began to be more significant?
Yes, her journal entry from March 12th of 2024, 1 week before the incident. So writing on March 12th, Tuesday, she writes, "I think I had a psychotic break earlier. The whole ordeal was quite silly. I actually spoke with one of the voices in my head. My particular friend and I were practically screaming, bloodthirstily and ravenously. Thank God, physical confrontation was not, and I think it's fruitively, possible. I sound crazy."
Carly had written a journal entry about her friend, quote unquote, the voice, taking over and feeling like it was taking over control of her and she was losing control of herself to the voice in her head, and she was worried about it. What, if any, diagnostic impressions did you come to based on the records you reviewed, your experience, your expertise, your evaluation of Carly and the family members that you spoke to?
Number one, her mood disorder, right? So I gave her the diagnosis of bipolar 2, and I saw her as having suffered from some significant depression and then some hypomanic episodes, and then worsening a mood disorder that was worsened by the Lexapro medication from March 12th onward. Certainly in the week or weeks leading up to the incident, the voices were becoming more prominent, more urgent, more of a problem, and likely really had crossed over into the domain of what I would call psychosis.
Her friends had reported that she had become very irritable, on edge, which sort of matches with what we're seeing from the signs of mental illness, that she had, withdrawn a little bit more, wasn't her like normal happy-go-lucky self.
I think Carly has a much more severe psychiatric illness than anybody realized.
Do you believe that Carly was able to understand the nature of her conduct and appreciate the difference between right and wrong at the time this incident occurred on March 19th?
I don't think so.
Carly's defense team, they only called one expert witness, but I believe that they felt very strongly about their defense and felt like what he had to say would be sufficient.
The prosecution calls 4 mental health experts, and they have a much different take on Carly Gregg's state of mind.
So she's denying seeing things that other people don't see and hearing things that other people don't see.
Right.
Did she report that she was hearing voices?
No.
Any blackouts, any lapses in time?
No.
There have been no thoughts of abnormal or psychotic thoughts, is that correct?
Right.
What was her behavior like?
Completely normal.
And at no time did she report any hallucinations or delusions? At no time did she report any memory or concentration issues?
No.
And while one nurse practitioner testifies that the change in Carly Gregg's medication could have affected her behavior, Other experts disagree.
They put on their experts to show that there is no way that the dosage of medication that she was taking and the medication, the type of medication, could at any way create such a psychotic break with reality that you kill someone or you are in such a bad bipolar state that you had no idea what you were doing.
When you learned about the events that had transpired on March 19th, were you shocked?
It's the most shocking day of my life.
And that's based on the 9 sessions you had with Carly and the hours you spent with her.
Yes, because I had no clue that nor had she ever reported that she was severely mentally troubled to any degree like that.
I want to talk a little bit about bipolar because it's my understanding that that's one of the diagnoses that Dr. Clark gave to Carly Gregg. Can you talk about whether or not you believe that Carly Gregg actually has either bipolar 1 or bipolar 2?
I highly doubt and do not believe that Carly has bipolar disorder.
The prosecution was very thorough. 4 people evaluated this defendant on the prosecution side, giving 4 different evaluations that came to the same conclusion. That's extremely strong evidence for the prosecution. Almost as strong as the video of the calm, cool, and collected defendant right after committing a murder.
The prosecution's final witness circles back to Carly Gregg's journals.
There's a lot of things in these journals, and some of them are concerning. She says, what do I believe? And she writes these tenets down, and one of them says, it's okay to be evil. There is no God. Heaven and hell are fake. Love is important. You don't need family. Writing your own destiny with a check mark beside it.
She was saying it doesn't matter to her if she didn't have a family. So there was some, clearly this was a troubled child.
But a prosecution witness puts it in harsher terms.
I used the word diabolical, and I stand by that word. I do not believe Carly is diabolical person. I do not believe she's an evil person. When Carly on that day went and unlocked the phone, texted a specific target, her stepfather, who she told me was more of a father figure to her than Kevin was, and said, "You almost home, honey." When she did that to me, that was very specific and diabolical. And that to me is not consistent with a dissociative spell. That is not consistent with psychosis. That is not consistent with mania. And it's definitely not consistent with hypomania. To me, that was deceitful.
The defense would have had to have established that Carly didn't know that what she did was wrong, that she had some psychotic break that stopped her from being basically a human being, knowing that killing is forever, shooting your mother is not right, and that your behavior is criminal in this regard.
What was your ultimate opinion as to whether or not Carly Gregg was insane at the time of the murder, attempted murder, and tampering with physical evidence on March the 19th, 2024?
So my opinion is that Carly does not meet Mississippi's standard for insanity at the time of the offense, and that she knew the nature, quality, and wrongfulness of her actions during that day.
They said that she clearly presented as someone who was not insane, but someone who had signs of being manipulative and having psychotic behavior. So that was very important for the prosecution.
After 4 days of testimony, the prosecution and defense present their closing arguments.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's no doubt that Carly Madison Gregg is the one who killed her mom, Ashley Smylie. There's no doubt that she attempted to kill Heath Smylie when she aimed the gun right at his head and shot and hit him in the shoulder. And there's no doubt that she's the one who hid the camera, thus tampering with evidence in the refrigerator. And we would ask you that you go back there and you find her guilty of all 3, because she was not insane at the time that this happened. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew the difference between right and wrong.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple.
It's what Oscar Wilde said. While she was having a state of psychosis and an episode of acute stress on March 19th, she lost herself in what was the perfect storm. I am asking you, for those reasons, to please find Carly Gregg not guilty by reason of insanity and finally quell this storm for Carly and her family. I ask you to search your hearts and remember the undisputed truths in this case.
A lot to consider in what is a very difficult case. What will the jury decide when it comes to 15-year-old Carly Gregg?
This is a tough story. It is. There's really no other way to say it. But look, we are glad that we're able to bring it to you and shed a light on what is going on here. But for that, I have to quickly call out and thank our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, because it's with their support that helps us to be able to keep on producing these kinds of shows. And by the way, this is America's largest personal injury law firm. They have over 1,000 attorneys. You know why? Because they win a lot. I mean, listen to this. In the past few months, Morgan & Morgan secured a $9.3 million verdict for a car crash in Florida, $5.6 million verdict for another car accident victim in Atlanta, not to mention $1.8 million in Kentucky after insurance offered them a mere $5,000. Now, even if you think your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so simple. You can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/primecrime.
It did seem there was more people that believed that she was, for lack of a better word, just an evil person.
In the case of 15-year-old Carly Gregg, charged with the murder of her mother and the attempted murder of her stepfather, the jury reaches a verdict.
Ms. Gregg, please rise and come to the podium, along with your attorneys. Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Please be seated, Ms. Gregg.
It was less than 2 hours, so they come back and they found her guilty on all 3 counts. You know, they did believe that Carly had mental health issues, that she was going through something mental health-wise, but as far as an insanity defense goes, it just did not reach that criteria.
I don't think they were presented with enough evidence about her. I don't think they ever saw a likable side of Carly. They saw a little girl, a young girl, sitting in court, crying a lot, but that's about all they got to see of her.
So they had basically 3 options with sentencing, which was sentence her to life with the possibility of parole. They could turn the sentence portion over to the judge and allow the judge to render the sentence instead of the jury themselves, or they could sentence her to life.
The verdicts read as follows. As to count 1, we, the jury, sentence the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, to life imprisonment. As to count 2, we, the jury, sentence the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, to life imprisonment. Sentences will run concurrent.
It is scary what she did and horrible what she did, but she's still a 14-year-old kid that does not appear to have received a fair shake from our justice system. And now she's in jail for the rest of her life, 15 years old, until she dies.
She is in a facility that houses violent offenders, juvenile violent offenders, and she will remain there until she turns 18, and that's when she will move over to the adult division.
Gregg's attorneys filed a motion for a new trial, but it was denied by the judge. However, the defense is now appealing the verdict.
It's definitely one of the more memorable cases that I've tried. When you're representing a juvenile being tried as an adult, you know, the stakes are obviously heightened, not just legally, but emotionally. I genuinely care about Carly. She is a good kid, and you know, I think anybody that knows Carly is lucky to know her, and I know some people will find that hard to believe, but people are more than the worst thing they've ever done.
A lot of people feel like that she got what she deserved, but you do still have that fringe group of people who believe that it was an unjust sentence and that she should not have gotten it. Regardless of the outcome of the trial, there's no winners there's no winners here. It's just very sad.
A 15-year-old girl who was beloved by her parents and friends will spend the rest of her life in prison. Maybe the worst punishment is she'll have to live all of her years with the terrible guilt of her horrific crime. That's all we have for you here on this episode of Prime Crime. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jesse Weber, and as always, stay safe.